Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show, brought to you by Segmentify, the fast, lean learning machine, the fastest learning, most revenue-generating personalization platform for e-commerce.
Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show. Today is a super hot day. I'm still in lockdown, still standing in my 5-year-old's bedroom, looking at dinosaur stickers, looking at the blistering sunshine outside. But it was interesting. I slept in a tent last night. My two boys went round to their friend's house and got envy of a pool and a bar and a big tent. Said, Daddy, you got to get the tent up. So then that was my job. Came back, put a tent up, and then I had the whole rigmarole of them either wanting to sleep or not sleep in the tent because they're young and scared, and then they were excited. Anyway, finally I managed to get them to sleep, and I didn't get a great sleep, but they did, and they woke up in the morning in the sunlight and jumping around for joy. So it was pretty fun. Anyway, as you know, this channel is all about helping e-commerce retailers grow their revenue through various thought leaders. And also I've had the fantastic opportunity actually to support our e-commerce community during COVID by talking to people who are currently actively seeking their next opportunity. And that's the case for my next speaker, who is a lady called Rachel Pryde. Now, Rachel is the ex-senior consultant at Practicology. So I thought that's going to be a very interesting chat. And Practicology, for those of you who don't know, is a kind of global e-commerce consultancy. So I'm really interested to hear what Rachel's got to say. She's originally from Michigan, so you'll probably hear a bit of an accent. And she's been in London for 10 years now and is an e-commerce marketing specialist with not only her experience with Practicology for the last four or so years. She's also been on the front line as well for a number of years, working on both the kind of trading side and on the marketing side. I had to learn some stuff from Rachel about what all that stuff was, but basically, as you probably know, trading sides of merchandising, personalization, stuff like Segmentify, and then you've obviously got the marketing side, which is more the sort of paid media and so on. But she's had some great experience with brands in luxury fashion, as well as high street retail, John Lewis and Dorothy Perkins, to name a few, and CPGs, which is another thing I learned from her, consumer packaged goods, which is that everyday stuff that you walk up down the aisles of Tesco or whatever, the aisles, and grab your tea bags or whatever. So as I say, she transitioned into being a consultant after that. So some fantastic experience there. So I'm really interested to talk to her. So hi, Rachel.
Hi, Phill.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Enjoying the weather, kind of ish. And yourself, you're in London Bridge, right?
Yes, I am.
And how is it there at the moment?
Yeah, it's great, sunny. I've got a park just across from
Yeah,
the window, so I get a good view.
beautiful. Well, why don't you start by telling us how you or why you transitioned from the front line to Practicology?
Well, I'd actually worked with a consultant at my last in-house job at Belstaff, and
Yeah.
I'd never really considered consultancies or had any experience with them previous to that. And
Hmm.
I was just really intrigued by her job, going into businesses and helping them
Mm,
improve.
absolutely.
So rather than just working for one brand and doing your job, you get to go around
Hmm.
to different companies and work with lots of different people, meet new people, and help them do their
Mm,
jobs better, which just sounded like a really great opportunity.
absolutely. Yeah. And how was it at Practicology? Was it fun?
Yeah, it was great. It's a
Yeah.
really good group of people, and I had the opportunity to work with some great clients as well. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it sounds really good. So we had a quick chat before this, and you mentioned about the overarching sort of topic that you were interested in talking to the guys about was basically how COVID has given an opportunity for smaller D2C brands, challenger brands. So again, D2C, direct to consumer, that's for me to learn more than anybody else. But how they can use this season to expand their offering. I didn't want to say anything else because I'd love you to sort of expand on that, to tell our listeners what you think is going on right now, how these kind of brands can maximize their opportunity.
Yeah, I think obviously we knew we were going to see a lot of changes in the way that brands are selling to customers and the way that customers are interacting with brands as well. And it's been quite interesting to see how those changes unfold and which will stick and which won't. I think, as you said, it's a great opportunity for new brands, smaller brands, challenger brands. And then I've also seen a shift amongst some larger brands as well. And I was actually seeing one of those, which I'll get into a bit of detail later, that actually had me thinking about this in a bit more detail because it was quite surprising. I think a lot of times we sort of look at direct to consumer, having a direct to consumer channel as working. I don't know if it's necessarily in opposition to having a marketplace or working with multi-channel retailers, but I feel like they're unfairly pitted against each other a lot of times. And we hear how Amazon particularly is the future, it's taking over, and that's where brands need to really invest all of their time and money in. I'm not saying that that's not true, but it doesn't have to be an either or situation. And it really depends on the brand. There's no one size fits all strategy when it comes to that.
Sure. I mean, with the whole Amazon thing, I mean, they take a lot, right? I mean, I don't know much about it, but all I ever heard was that you're far better off going direct than going through marketplace because they take a massive chunk of everything. Or am I totally wrong there?
Not necessarily. It depends on how you're selling with Amazon. So there's multiple different setups that you can have based off of how much you're selling and so forth. You can handle the whole selling process yourself and run it through Amazon, or you can have it what they call FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, where where Amazon handles everything. So there's different ways to sell with Amazon, and I'm in no way an expert on marketplaces. But those will have different. They'll have a different amount of revenue and return based off of how you sell with them. So it really depends.
I see. No, that makes sense. So you Karen, you were talking about reaching customers and stuff about Royal Mail and all sorts of stuff.
So like I said, there's not really a one size fits all strategy when you're thinking about where you want to sell and if you want to expand into new channels, whether you're a brand that sells exclusively on marketplaces and you're considering launching your own website, or if you only have a D2C offering and you're considering maybe starting to sell on Amazon or working with another partner. It really depends on what's best for the business. It's about diversification and the best way to reach your customers. And especially now, and coming back to the situation with COVID, I found that one impact that we've had with the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown situation that so many of us find ourselves in, not only here in the UK, but globally, really, is a limited access to physical stores. And then a lot of online options are more limited as well. So people who would traditionally order their groceries online have had reduced delivery slots. Availability on products on Amazon, for example, I think they've opened it up now, but a few months ago, I know they were only selling items that were deemed essential. So there was limitations there and people were buying loads and hoarding, and it was just a crazy time. And through that, we've still seen, as what I've said before from the Royal Mail, they're reporting that 45% of adults are receiving more packages now than they usually do. So while we've heard a lot about people aren't spending more, which is true, a lot of their spend is now going online because there's no other alternative.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. In fact, I'm seeing that myself in my own house. Like the packages have gone up coming through my door. Clearly, I'm not spending it. It's the other half. But I am seeing them come through the door, and I have to just button my lip. So I just or is it bite your lip? I always get those wrong. So that they're going into the kitchen, and I don't even want to see what it is because it's more money being spent. But hey. Completely. They should, we can't go and get the stuff on, at the local shops or whatever. And the funny thing you say about delivery, exactly the same as well. We've got actually friends who have got almost like an undercover operation. She'll get a WhatsApp message going, ping, I've seen delivery slots at Tesco, right? And everyone jumps on it and he's like, oh, got a slot. And, we're trying to balance work-life balance because she works 2 days a week and trying to get the shopping. So that's I've seen both the exact things you just said come up, So interesting to hear your thoughts on, how to kind of optimize this situation in terms of those shifts,
Yeah, of course. I think when things like this happen, you don't really know how people will react. But now that it's been a few months now, we're starting to see these trends. And
Yeah.
I'm saying something and you've had that same exact experience as well. So it's sort of
Exactly.
community,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you will,
No,
around these
absolutely.
things.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's obviously not new, as you say, D2C, direct to consumer, but these things have started to happen. So, I mean, what sort of shifts have you seen then in the light of now what's going on?
um, well, I've seen it on two different sides.
Sure.
So traditionally, direct to consumer has been a core sales channel for things like fashion brands, high street retail, and things like that, which obviously
Yeah.
have been struggling and have been making news about it as well. But it's other categories where it's actually been very successful. Things where people traditionally wouldn't shop for those types of products on a direct
Yeah.
to consumer channel.
Yeah.
We had examples from before COVID as well. So things like Harry's Razors, furniture from Made.com, loads of new mattress brands. I feel like they all came out around the same time, sort of
Mm.
surpassing the traditional channel and just selling directly to the customer. But what I've seen in the past few months is the first thing is larger brands,
Mm-hmm.
corporations selling their products
Mm-hmm.
on their own website.
Mm-hmm.
So Heinz, for example, launched a D2C channel in the UK. And then
Yeah.
also smaller companies, challenger brands, which we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
advantage of the opportunity to, even if they were on D2C before, using the opportunity
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
increase their audience
Yeah.
during this time where a lot of brands have actually pulled out of marketing, leaving room
Sure.
for these smaller brands to gain
Yeah.
visibility.
Sure. And how do they go about doing that?
In which aspect? I think it depends on
So
the brand.
yeah, I mean, obviously coming from not your world, if you like, you're saying that there's an opportunity right now, but how do you actually take advantage of that opportunity, if you like, from a layman's perspective? What should people be doing?
So I think one thing they should be doing is if you're
Mhm.
selling across different channels. So let's say you've got an Amazon business and you've got a DTC offering, which is quite small, or maybe you're selling and some other retailers and you've seen sales come down in those channels, it could be the time to take a look at your own D2C channel and look what you can do to improve conversion on site, and then also look at what you can do to drive traffic directly to your site rather than focusing any marketing on going to those other multi-channel retailers and other partners that you work with. Yeah. So now, in terms of how to drive traffic, I think one
Fantastic.
of the trends that we've seen, which really makes it a good opportunity to push to your own site, is the drop in cost of media. So while a few larger brands have decided to maintain media spend or launch their own D2C sites because they're big enough to be able to launch in such a short space of time, um, a lot and overall ad spend has dropped, which means that the cost of media has dropped. So a lot of these smaller brands who maybe have a small marketing budget, they couldn't really afford to compete, they now have a chance to get so many more eyes in front of their ads and introduce a lot more potential customers to their brand.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
Okay, cool. Very quickly on that, right? Why, it's a very stupid question, but why are larger brands, say, reducing their spend? Say like a Made.com or something, or the Eve Sleep, the ones I think we talked about earlier, or you mentioned earlier. Are these big companies reducing their spend? Is there a reason for that?
I don't know if those specific companies have reduced their
Yeah,
spend.
yeah,
Brands that have pulled back on spend are more of the large corporates. So on
yeah.
a global scale, those companies are still quite small. It's the really big companies that have sort of put the brakes on ad spend or pulled back. Just
Okay.
because a lot of times when you have larger corporations, they're very risk adverse. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I see. That makes sense. And I mean, you might have shareholders, or you might just have general macroeconomic conditions, which are just basically saying, hold on, pull down the budgets, bosh, let's forget it. And interestingly, that's, I know we were talking about this earlier, but the guy I had on from Findlay Hats, the guy from Portland, I think, he was saying that he did exactly that as a small D2C brand on a Shopify site, who knew that when it became much more cost effective in terms of getting your return back on your paid media spend, for example, that he basically cleaned up and became much, much more visible on so many different terms, that used it as a fantastic opportunity to build his brand. Is that the sort of thing that you're talking about in some respects?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Awesome.
And I've seen it and the advertising that I've seen, whether that's on my Instagram feed or just seeing Google search ads and things like that, I've seen exactly that shift.
Wow.
The
And
type
how
of
does
brand.
sorry, carry on.
I was saying that just the types of brands that I'm seeing are completely different to what I was seeing a few months ago.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And so, like we're saying, continuing to try and dig into it in terms of capturing this opportunity, then what are the what are the channels that people should be really getting into? In terms of, is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it Link? I mean, what I was going to say LinkedIn, probably not, but it's more my world. But how does somebody really kind of rinse, if you forgive the term, that whole idea?
I think it depends on what you're selling, but
Right.
for a lot of brands, especially if we're talking to D2C, and if they are a challenger brand, most likely they have a story to tell. So going on Instagram, Facebook is a way to really reach people. And now when people have more time, they're more relaxed, they're more in a mindset maybe to try something new or to pay more attention to an ad. It'd be really interesting to see the benchmark stats on interactions with ads during this time to see if that actually is true. But it's something that I think people will be doing. It seems, it's my prediction. So we'll see if it's proven right or wrong. But
well, absolutely. But as a
time.
senior, I was going to say, as a senior consultant, at a solid agency or consultancy, sorry, should I say? I think it's great to hear this kind of thing, because I think you're probably right. I mean, again, going back to, as I say, it's great timing because I'm having a chat to Jimmy at Finley, but he was saying exactly the same thing. He's got a really powerful story behind his brand. And of course, I've also spoken to other people in the kind of, what do they call it? Like influencer field or something like that, where they're called,
exactly.
is it? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. So it's kind of influencer marketing where they're on Instagram and they're showing this story about, the brand itself, and engaging with people. And I think you're right. People are at home more. They're more bored, to be frank. Even my other half, she works a couple of days a week, and gets time to be bored, even with the kids and stuff. So we obviously have more chats, which is actually a positive from that. But on top of that, people, I think we had a social distance drink the other day, with a couple of guys who were saying exactly the same thing. They're kind of sitting around and they're not that motivated. So what are they going to do? They are going to start looking at stuff more in a more detailed way, and stories are going to be more appealing. They're going to be more eyes on more screens, right? So
exactly.
it makes sense to maximize that. So certainly on the Instagram side, what are the main sort of social channels that companies, brands, challenger brands in particular, would they typically use? I know you mentioned some of them would be more useful than others, but do you know what I mean? Name a few examples of, say, I don't know, like a bed brand versus a fashion brand. Where would they be going,
I mean, the core channel for social is going to be Facebook, which gives you access to Instagram as well. So Facebook and Instagram.
Right. Okay.
Brands targeting younger customers previously were looking at opportunities within Snapchat. But I think now everyone's going towards TikTok. So as advertising expands there, it's still quite a new social channel. If you're looking at Gen Z, for example, as your target audience, that's where they're going to be. And then also Pinterest has advertising as well, but they're also quite small. I've done a few test campaigns with them, with one of my clients at Practicology. And they do produce very beautiful ads. The ads are very nice, but you have to consider that it's a very specific audience going to Pinterest, and they're going for a very specific reason. So people are planning parties, weddings, Christmas lists, if we're looking into the future, and things like that happen on Pinterest. So just be very aware of why the user is on that specific channel. Is it their age? Is it what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera? The most generic one would be Instagram.
Really? Yeah. And in terms of getting bang for buck, then, I mean, have you done much research, or have you followed the trends about how effective they are? Basically, I mean, how effective TikTok is, or Snapchat is, or is it, is it growing? Is it, is it looking like promising for the future, or is it already here? I mean, how is it all looking at the moment, the landscape in that world?
I think the way that we look at social has to be very, it's not an exact science in terms of knowing exactly what you're getting back for it, even though it's a paid ad, it's tracked. People generally will take, depending on what industry you're in, it could take 2 weeks before they make a purchase from seeing the ad. Or it could be because they've seen the ad on Instagram in combination with then seeing a display ad somewhere else, or seeing an influencer post, or seeing a YouTube video. It's all a combination of different channels working together. So it's
But they do work, do they? I mean, you do get, from your experience, that by spending money in, I suppose if you get your research right, with a consultancy like Practicology, or an expert like yourself, you would know where to put the money to probably get the most return on spend, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have to plan out what other channels you're going to be in, what you expect the customer journey to be, and look at returns that way. And then also, what type of advertising are you doing? If you're advertising on social to people who've already been to your site, then your ROI is going to be a lot higher, because you're presenting a second or third touch point to someone who's already been to your site. Whereas if you're using social as a way to recruit new customers, which I think is a great use for the channel, you're not going to see as high of an ROI on that.
That makes sense.
But it doesn't mean that you're not gaining sales. Maybe you'll see the return go up on your Google search ads, for example, or maybe more people will click through direct. But it's because you had that ad somewhere else.
Yeah, I suppose it's like indirect. You can't measure everything, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of attribution and all of that.
Yeah. No, completely. But it sounds like you're saying that during this time, it's not necessarily a time to batten down the hatches if you're a smaller challenger brand. Actually, quite the opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a time where you can get the customer's attention, both from their side, having potentially more time, or looking for something different, or to an alternative to what they normally would do in their normal life. So it's an opportunity from the customer side. And then also from a spend perspective, you can reach more people. It's a great opportunity to maintain the budget you would have normally spent and reach a lot more people, maybe test something that you couldn't have afforded to test previously.
No, that's what I was going to say. That the whole, what comes up as a regular sort of theme is the test and measure perspective, that you don't go full on. You got an opportunity here to spend a bit of money on it within reason, and see if you can get a return, which would possibly be more value now than it would be before.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Sounds like
so critical.
Yeah. Well, let me just go on to another question which we talked about earlier, which is that you were saying that challenger brands. In general, what is the extra value? Tell the guys what the extra value is, effectively, that they're providing the consumer. Why, how, and this actually comes up quite a bit in other chats as well. The whole idea of how the big beasts like Amazon, or we were talking about Flipkart or eBay or whatever it might be, or the big grocery stores and stuff, are kind of taken over, if you like, right? But so on that note, what do you think that they bring the consumer over and above this just go to Amazon and get it?
Yeah, so obviously Amazon is growing. I'm not going to deny that. And I think it can be a good channel for these challenger brands to go into, but but they also shouldn't dismiss selling directly to the customer. I think a lot of times what I've seen is that they're providing something that the big brands, the traditional brands, the brands that have been around for a long time, don't offer, and something that the customer is looking for but just can't find. And recently, I found that is actually sustainability. A lot of these newer D2C brands are actually offering sustainable products. And it's everyday things that we would use. I've been
mm,
advertised everything from deodorant to
mm,
dishwasher tablets,
mm, mm.
even toilet paper made from bamboo, like all sorts of things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you can't necessarily find on Amazon
Mm, mm,
or in your
mm,
weekly shop with
mm,
Tesco, for example.
mhm.
And people now have time to, who could have considered wanting these things or said, oh, I really should
Yeah,
switch to a more sustainable whatever. But
yeah,
they didn't have time to find it. They didn't have time
yeah.
to realize, okay, this is the brand I want to go for. This is what I want to
Mm,
try. And I think as
mm,
we've all sort of slowed down a little bit,
yeah,
there's room to
yeah.
do that.
That is really interesting. Um, Capitalizing on the extra time effectively. I'm just thinking about it myself. What about, like, so you talk about sustainability, for example. I expect there are other things, if you like, as well, that would make it unique for somebody to discover, if you like, with a brand as opposed to just going to Amazon. Do you know from your research, from the consultative perspective, that things like sustainably and or other things, which kind of I don't know, but I'm assuming are out there, are they growing? Like, I mean, is it only COVID that has allowed that, or have they generally slowly been growing, and COVID's going to give an opportunity to potentially grow a little bit faster during the season?
No, I think these things have always been considered, especially when we speak about
Mm,
sustainability. I think over the past
mhm,
year or so,
mhm,
customer awareness of
mm.
um, sustainable options, what's really in the products that they're using,
Yeah,
and those types of things, the customers just
sure.
become a lot more conscious.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for alternatives, and there aren't always alternatives there. And
Mm,
that out of that has birthed a
mm,
lot of these smaller brands
yeah,
offering a sustainable alternative. But
sure.
because they're so small and these are
Yeah,
products that are coming
yeah,
from huge corporations, it's really hard to
yeah,
compete.
sure.
So without all of the
Yeah.
noise, this is a really good time for brands like that to
Mm,
expand their customer base.
very interesting. Kind of a almost a, maybe even a philosophical question, right? What is driving that? Do you think?
The push towards sustainability.
Yeah. Why do people care now more than they might have? What have you seen? Why do you think people are caring more about what's in stuff and all the rest of it?
I think there's just been so much noise about climate change, really,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
impact that the things that we use in our daily lives and have done for decades now, and the impact that
Mm,
it's had on the planet.
yeah.
And a lot of people are looking to make a change, but when you've lived a certain way for so long, you're kind of stuck.
Mm,
You don't know what to change,
mm,
how to change
mm,
it,
mm,
what will
mm,
make the greatest impact.
mm,
And the more that it's been in the news, the more brands have gone to try to make changes. And so
mm,
it's
mm.
going green is quite a buzzy term these days, I think. And it's
Yeah.
not just the smaller brands that have
Mm,
started this way. You're also seeing a lot of larger companies try to pay more attention to that as well. And I think you see that
yeah.
really
Yeah.
in the fashion industry too, because it's
Yeah.
one of the most polluting industries.
Yeah. I
And so
know
there's been a
completely.
lot of
Yeah.
pushback, and a lot of companies have been looking
Yeah.
at how can we
Yeah.
change our practices to make them
Yeah.
better for the planet.
Yeah. Very interesting. And do you think it's generational? Do you think the younger generations that are growing up are driving this harder, or do you think it's generic across the board?
I think they're leading it, but I don't think they're alone. Um,
No.
I think that you've got older generations as well that are seeing this and responding, but I
Yeah.
do think there is a lot of power in this youngest generation coming up now. They
Yeah.
seem to be the loudest
Mm,
for sure. I think we've known about these things for quite a long time, but it seems that only in the past few
mm,
years that a lot of action has been taking place. So
yeah.
all
No,
the
it's
good things that
interesting.
they're bringing.
No, completely. Yeah, I only ask because from my own experience, being totally honest, I suppose it's kind of secondary. I'm still one of these people probably be driven largely by price. And it just so happened that I think I told this story, not necessarily a story, but this thing on another podcast where I went and got some Gumby's flip flops because they gave me a great experience on the website, actually. Same price as Amazon, so I didn't care. I think they gave me another 10% off by being on the website. So it's classic D2C experience, actually, which made me a Gumby's fan, going direct to them. I would never go anywhere else for them. But it was secondary to me that they just so happen to be sustainable as well. Like, they make it out of recycled rubber and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, nice one, mate. But that wouldn't have been the driver for me, But I personally think it's great in other areas. Like, I noticed with my two kids and on my other half, how much plastic we get through. For example, we quite like sparkling water, right?
Yeah.
From Tesco or whatever, right? Pretty cheap. In fact, it's dirt cheap. And the
It is.
amount of plastic bottles that you get through, if you buy 10 of them in a week, and then you drink that instead of your tap water. And I'm looking at the recycling thinking, bloody hell, man, this is bad. And so actually, even me, I'm saying, really, is kind of looking at that thinking, do you know what? And I turned around to Michelle and said, do you know what? Don't get so many of them. I'm going to drink water from the tap more often, because that's just a joke,
Yeah.
So I think you're right. This is permeating through more and more as I think more exposure is increasing with it, for sure.
Yeah. I had the exact same issue in my house as well with the sparkling water. And you're right, you can get it so cheap in those really big, I think it's like 2-liter bottles. So I ended up getting a SodaStream, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's great.
Well.
You can have as much as you want.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Plastic.
Is it a lot more expensive to do that way, or is it not too bad?
No, I think if you drink it regularly, the price will net out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a one-time purchase, and then you have to buy the canisters. But I mean, I haven't actually done the math on it, but I imagine because you keep using it, the more you use it, the more the price per, I guess, glass of sparkling water would then go down.
No, you're right. You're right. I might look into that. I used to do it actually when I was a kid. When my stepmom or something, she had one in the kitchen. I remember now.
Oh, really?
I might have to go. Yeah. I might have to go back to it. It's a good idea. It's a very good idea. So just I'm hoping I'm not repeating my question here, but what about advantages then for brands with direct to consumer channel? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we talked about some of them, but something else, and I think you touched on this when you were talking about, was it Gumby's, the brand for the flip-flop?
Yeah.
You're now a Gumby's customer for life.
100%.
Really like that experience. It's the customer loyalty that you don't get when you're one of however many thousand flip-flops on Amazon and someone just buys the one that wins the buy box at the top, They were really able to touch you in a way, and you now like the brand, and that's something that you don't necessarily get unless you're interacting directly with the consumer on your own channel. And then you also get the customer data as well. So the brand now knows who you are as a customer. They know what you've bought. If they have a new product they think you'll like, they can send you an email about it. And they have you in their base. They know what you looked at on the site, and they have full control and analytics on that journey. So that is not something to be dismissed at all. And I think it's something that a lot of brands do feel that they're lacking when they're only selling through other channels. So it's definitely a big learning, and that's not only used for the advantage of increasing sales on your D2C channel, but you can also take those learnings to help you sell more through Amazon, through other marketplaces, through multi-channel retailers. So it's a really good thing to have all around, even if it's not your key channel.
No, I totally agree. And that's where, interestingly, Segmentify comes in, because we try and help those D2C brands to optimize on the conversion of that traffic that does get to their D2C website or whatever. And then obviously gather that data to be able to then drive the email campaigns, the push campaigns, on-site search, product recommendations, just to basically say, look, if you've got that traffic to your website, however you've managed to invest in doing that, then you need to be investing in the tech that helps you to make sure that you're giving them a fantastic experience when on a site. Particularly, obviously, not like a Gumby situation. Clearly, you don't have enough products to have to worry about it effectively. because you're probably going there to get one of 5 flip-flops, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a bigger brand with a much bigger product set and you've got a lot of merchandising kind of noise, if you like, and you need to know what to be showing what people at the right time, then it's massively important to get that right. No, I completely see that. If you and that then feeds into that customer lifetime value, retention piece, brand experience that you're talking about, because you don't want to waste that, do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, listen, that was really, really cool. Could you just tell the guys, obviously, one of the reasons why we do this channel, particularly at the moment, is to just really raise some exposure for great guys and girls like you, Rachel. Just to really give you a bit of exposure and, to ask the guys, look, if anybody is actually, looking for somebody at the moment that's got Rachel's experience or knows of somebody in their network, we'd love to get in touch with Rachel. Could you just tell us, Rachel, the best way to get hold of you?
So you can send me a note on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
or you can reach me by email as well.
Fantastic. So you've got Rachel Pryde. So it's Pryde, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And your email is rapryde@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So that's it, guys. So you can search Rachel Pryde or rapryde@gmail.com. So just to finish off, Rachel, keen to ask on behalf of everybody, if there's like one key thing that you'd love them to take away from this chat, what would it be?
I think it's just that there's always customers out there who want to have that experience with the brand, and D2C is really the channel that can do it. I think your comment on the flip-flops that we were speaking about before really sums it up. Brands should always seek to give their customers a bit of joy when they shop, and there's something that's meant to be said for that. And marketing just really should be about the customer.
No, absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, I was going to say that was a really great chat. I love talking to you, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening. I love the fact, really, at the end of the day, we're talking about taking a difficult scenario that we're in right now, but for a challenger brand, a smaller D2C brand, to really sort of embrace the situation and actually use it potentially to their advantage, or at least test and measure that to see if they can get actually a positive situation out of this current situation. Just remains for me to say that you guys know that we have the e-commerce growth show channel on the website, segmentify.com/podcast. You're welcome to register on that anytime. If you haven't done so already, you'll get access to obviously Rachel's podcast, all the other previous ones and future ones as well, as soon as they come out. And obviously at the moment, we're trying to support people. So the more that you guys can get behind this and sign up to receive them, the better, because then you can obviously help us to spread the word about these guys and also get hold of the sort of thought leadership that everybody is talking about. Also, if you've got any questions in particular about subjects or topics that you want us to try and cover, I know there's a lot of experts out there, then do let us know. If you want to be involved also as well, or you have general questions, do please email me at phill@segmentify.com. And as I say, have a wonderful day, everybody, or whatever you're doing. And stay safe, stay strong, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again. And thank you so much again, Rachel.
All right, thank you.
Put us to the test and let us prove we can drive more revenue for you. Sign up for a completely free proof of concept or split test against your current provider, set up and optimized by our team within a few days at segmentify.com/demo.